Hi, Will from Sound on Sound here at the NAMM show on the Positive Grid booth with Sean. Sean, tell me, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Excellent. Hey, that's good. That's really good.
Thank you.
And what do you have for us?
Well, today we are very pleased to announce the launch of BiasAmp 2. So it's the very first update to our BiasAmp software. Obviously, we're well known in the metal and gent community. You're very visible in that world. But
the gentlemen enjoy it.
The gentlemen, yes.
Yes.
But I think the thing is that the amp has always done gooey and creamy sounds. It's just something that is not very obvious. So for this release, we actually focused on touch sensitivity and dynamics. So we have 4 new tube types. They are all tubes from either hi-fi amplifiers or bass amplifiers, so they have way more headroom before clipping.
Okay.
So you have more control of your mid-gain kind of gain sounds. We have a brand new partnership with Celestion I'll talk about in a second. We have basically a new RTA EQ. So when the EQ is running, you actually can see a visual representation of what's going on. So it's not just for your amps. Obviously guitars can create some pretty gnarly sounds sometimes by themselves, so you can obviously put it in front of the preamp and actually EQ your guitar before it hits the amp. So if you've got one of those old 60s guitars that's really gnarly at 2K, you can pull that down.
Cool.
So we've obviously increased the sort of flexibility in the UI. It's much prettier looking. If you're going to be looking at it all day, we figured it might as well look really, really nice, which it does. As well, we have a new dynamic tone control in the transformer. So this little guy here, basically it's a abrasive remover limiter. So power supplies, when they provide voltage to the tubes, they do it at different stages, and when they get hit differently, that actually can affect the frequency response.
Right,
so
sure.
what this guy does is, it is basically a frequency-dependent limiter between about 2 and 5K that you can sort of use to tame the abrasiveness of a sound. So it doesn't kill the high end above 5K, it's just taming the abrasiveness. It's not a set and forget kind of control. There are sometimes you won't ever need it, but it's definitely something that you can use as a way to sort of smooth out things if you want.
Okay.
So one of the really important things about the update is an update to our cab module. So you now have the ability to do multiple microphones. So you have 2 microphones on the same cab if you want, and you can obviously move them back and forth at time, which is great.
In 3D space, front and back and left and right.
Exactly,
okay,
3D space. You have open and closed back emulation, and those microphones can be mixed together, muted, done whatever you like. But one of the most important things is a partnership with Celestion. So if you're familiar with IR packs,
I am indeed, yes.
Yeah, you get thousands of files and folders, and if you want to audition the 57 that's 6 inches away, you find that file and audition it, and it's quite a tedious process.
So for people who maybe don't know what the IR packs are, can you just explain?
Yeah, so an impulse response pack basically is a series of captures of a speaker cabinet type. And you can get them from all sorts of companies, Redwires or Ownhammer and those kind of things. So Celestion, however, makes definitely the most sought after IRs of a lot of top pro players. But what we've done is we've made their IRs easier to use than in any other application. So we have 15 of their classic cabinets and 15 of their modern vintage cabinets, but what we've done is we've taken all the impulse responses and folded them into a custom cabinet model.
Okay.
So you don't have to load individual files. You load one cabinet, and when you move the microphone around, it interpolates between all of those different impulse responses.
That's very smart.
It's super cool. So these Celestion impulse responses are easier to use on BiasAmp than on any other platform, which is cool.
Okay.
And last but not least,
right.
Amp Match has always been able to match the sound of almost any amplifier, but we've done 2 things. If you're not a confident tone tweaker yourself, you can ask BiasAmp and Amp Match to guess the circuit for you based upon a genre. So you can say, all right, look, I want a crunch amp, here's what we're going to be matching, and it will actually listen to it and guess an amp circuit for you, which is cool. And you can now match the sound
quickly,
of an, yeah.
How is it doing that? How are you actually getting to that point?
It's a filter scan. So it's a rather complex process of filtering to basically listen to. It has some intelligence in terms of, all right, a crunch amp is probably one of these sort of types of circuits, but it's also doing some really clever stuff in the background to try to figure out how to set that amp up with gain.
Okay, cool.
As well, you can now match the sound of a soloed guitar track.
All right, so how does that work?
So you import an audio file, it listens to it, and then you actually play your guitar into your interface, and it matches the 2 up.
So basically shortcutting the tone quest.
Yes, and what's cool about this, we have a producer in Nashville who was a member of a very large, popular band about 10 years ago. They're no longer with their label, but they're re-recording their record. And he sold all those amps. He doesn't have the amps that he had anymore. So he's using Amp Match, going in Pro Tools, and basically importing the audio files from his Pro Tools into here, matching the tone, and then playing the parts back in.
That's
Bang.
yeah.
Shabba.
Yeah.
Shaboo.
So we're getting there.
It's very cool. So that's basically Bicep 2. It's a bunch of new components. It's a new UI. It's new speakers. It's we also have last thing is a new bass and blues pack. So we have an amp that's specifically made for bass players, and it's very flexible. It can do your traditional GK sound, it can do your B15, it can do your SVT, it can do your Portaflex, all that stuff. And then the blues pack is definitely made for gooey, mid-gain, sort of compressed, blues sort of vintage sounds. So it's a very complete update. It now comes in 3 tiers, standard, professional, and elite.
And the differences are?
The difference is standard gets all the new tubes, it gets a lot of the new functionality, but Amp Match and the IR loader, and the blues and bass pack are in professional, and then elite takes everything that's in professional and adds the Celestion impulses.
Okay, cool. And the pricing is what?
It's $99, $199, and $299.
And available when?
It's available yesterday.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Sean.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thanks, guys.